Grand Theft Auto fans, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is we finally got some news on Grand Theft Auto 6. Reportedly it'll be set in Vice City, GTA's equivalent of Miami, and will feature the first female protagonist in the series since Grand Theft Auto 1 as part of a Bonnie and Clyde style duo. The bad news, unless you work in Rockstar's QA department, is that GTA 6 is reportedly at least 2 years away from release. As such, you might find yourself looking for something similar to play in the meantime while you wait. And though that is a fine idea, may we recommend you avoid these 7 terrible GTA clones that are a worse crime than literal Grand Theft Auto. Enjoy! I mean, beware.
Is the target in the city?
Somewhere in Barcelona. The various criminal factions will be looking to get their hands on it and
sell it to the highest bidder.
The world is full of buyers.
What if Grand Theft Auto starred Vin Diesel? This was the intriguing elevator pitch for 2009's Wheelman, which, once everyone had got out of the elevator, continues and was bad. Vin stars as Milo Burek, who is supposedly an undercover cop sent to Barcelona to investigate crimes, but who is actually just Vin Diesel, a man who is magic at cars.
Car trouble?
No, I just won the lottery, all the cars I want. What the hell's it to you?
Well, let's just say I fix things.
As such, Wheelman has more of a focus on solving your problems through improbable car stunts, like lurching across traffic to ram your enemies, or leaping effortlessly from car to car whenever you fancy driving something new. The problem is that Barcelona is not so much a living, breathing city as it is one that needs regular blasts from an inhaler, with very little in the way of open world areas to explore, and everything that wasn't in a car was boring, repetitive, and unchallenging. Plus, the graphics weren't that great. Except for Vin Diesel, of course. You can see where the budget went.
Drop the gun now!
Billed as SOCOM meets Grand Theft Auto, 2006's 25 to Life had you play 3 different characters at different points in the game. These were a gang leader called Sean Calderon, a cop surrounded by crooked colleagues called Officer Williams, and a street gangster called Freeze, who is trying to get out of the game. The 3 playable characters were an interesting idea in theory. In practice, it didn't make much of a difference, as every level was a repetitive third-person shooter where you stood behind walls and popped out to fire guns at criminals or cops depending on who you're playing as. It did have a pretty good soundtrack, and the multiplayer mode was decent for the time, but boil it down and 25 to Life was essentially Max Payne without any of the charm, style, fun writing, or enjoyable gameplay. Let's just say it's not only Freeze who wants out of the game.
I got 24 hours, 1 used car and 4 grand to find. Yeah, I'm just a boy from the city.
Back in the day, one of the most persistent thorns in Grand Theft Auto's side was the Driver series, which told the story of Tanner, a gruff and strangely animated undercover cop. In fact, there was a long history of shots back and forth between Driver and Grand Theft Auto, with GTA 3 roasting Driver 2, and Driver 3 roasting GTA Vice City. Driver 3 marks the peak of the franchise's attempts to be a Grand Theft Auto alternative, but unfortunately for Driver, the game launched with a slew of technical problems that made the game feel unfinished and look terrible, and for a game called Driver, forced you to spend a lot of time out of your car, where the controls weren't very good, doing shooting that wasn't very fun. So I guess there was no need to keep roasting it in Grand Theft Auto games, right, Rockstar?
How can Refract just mess up so bad? Tanner, you suck ass!
Gracious in victory, as ever.
Beneath the familiar face of London lies another world. An underworld ruled by rival gangs, where everyone operates outside the law, and the price of respect is a bullet.
If you prefer your street crime to have a Cockney accent, then do we have the game for you? That's right, it's Grand Theft Auto London 1969.
Proceed to Section 9 in Central Chelsea.
Because honestly, you're not going to want to play the alternative, which is the 2006 PSP game, Gangs of London. In the game, there are 5 gangs, each with their own turf, who are all competing to take over the city. You pick your favourite, and then launch attacks on the other gangs to try and strengthen your hold on London. In practice though, there is almost no difference between the different gangs, nor any difference in mission types. It's all boring, repetitive shooting, with you issuing commands to your AI companions that are routinely ignored in favour of them doing whatever stupid thing they fancy doing at the time. The game also supposedly recreates 25 square miles of London, but you wouldn't know it from the identical linear missions that forced you down similar looking paths over and over again. Bloody diabolical, as I'm sure they probably say in London.
Long as you packing thunder and lightning here, you straight. Fear breeds respect. Once you get folks to fear you, it's over. Bam, bam, bam! Yo, man, I'll check you later. I'm finna get me some of them headhunter broads.
Dope moves, kid. It's official, homie. You one of the outlaws now. Let's get back to the crib and give Big Dog the good news.
With a title that sounds like it was made from a Grand Theft Auto fridge poetry set, 2005's Crime Wars Gang Life... Wait, Crime Wars... Hang on. Crime Life Gang Wars is a game that is more focused on the beating people up part of a life of crime, but with a few token open world crime bits thrown in to trick people into thinking this is like a GTA game. These include shoplifting, sticking up jewelry stores and other businesses, but they're all basically identical activities, and even the game treats them as annoying diversions from what it actually wants you to do: have boring fights. Yes, what this game actually is a bad beat-em-up with poor controls, a crappy combo system, and 2 whole attacks with which to put the hurt on your street rivals, the leaders of whom are, the game tells us, played by the members of Eminem's rap crew D12. Not that you'd know to look at their terrible character models. Is Eminem in the game, you might be wondering? I think you know the answer to that.
Hey! Get out of there!
F*** off! Uncle Tony?
Pretty much everyone loved The Sopranos, the prestige TV drama about a mob boss who was trying to balance his work life as head of a mafia-type crime family with his home life as head of an actual family. How on earth would he go about adapting this premise as a video game, you might be thinking, to which I'd guess your answer probably isn't Grand Theft Auto clone.
Hey Tony, you want anything from the deli? Ollie's hungry.
Which must mean you're buying. Give me a salami on rye, lettuce, mayo, mustard.
And yet here is The Sopranos Road to Respect, a game in which you play as Joey LaRocca, illegitimate son of series character Salvatore Big Pussy Bonpensiero, who you might remember, Sopranos spoilers, as being an FBI informant that Tony shot to death. So not a great start there. Joey is hired as an enforcer for the Soprano family, and as such, all the game's missions are combat-focused, with you solving most of the family's problems with your fists, feet, and an assortment of random weaponry. Although it might look like you can explore, any attempts to head off the beaten path will just warp you back onto the linear route you're supposed to take, and the combat is unchallenging to the point where you really have to be trying to fail a fight. Added to this is the fact that it doesn't look great, it's not much fun, it's packed with bugs and glitches, and you can finish the whole thing in about 5 hours. Looks like Big Pussy got off lightly, is all I'm saying. If you want to see the real bottom of the GTA clone barrel, then you need to head to your mobile games platform of choice, where you will find all manner of horrible GTA knockoffs that share a font and several title words with Grand Theft Auto, and that's it. For example, check out Auto Theft Gangsters, which is even set in Liberty City and has you driving around a mostly empty city at 15 miles per hour, then tapping the screen to wail on people with baseball bats. Or Vegas Gangster Auto Theft, in which you drive around a mostly empty city at 15 miles an hour, then tap on the screen to wail on people with your fists. Or Grand Crime Auto Theft Miami City Mafia Gangster, in which, you get it. You won't find a rip-off more shameless, and that's a guarantee. What is Rockstar gonna do though? Complain about theft? Should have thought about that before you grand thefted all those autos, guys. Thanks for sticking around through this list of the 7 worst GTA clones of all time. Have you played any of them? Were any actually good? If you want to go to the mat for Vegas Gangster Auto Theft, then let us have it in the comments, and keep it locked to Outside Xbox for more GTA 6 as and when we get it. Thanks for watching.